What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Tattoo Marketing Podcast. On this week's episode, we don't have a guest. What we're going to do is we're going to actually answer some of the questions, the most common questions that we have received over the past 3 to 6 months. Because there's definitely a theme that you will notice. Great episode, especially if you've had any questions of what is going on with marketing and tattoo companies. Here's your answers. Let's get to it. All right. So, one of the biggest questions that we have received recently is about how slow it has been this year. So, we have three different questions here from people that have reached out. They're all kind of the same things. Is this year's season slow for everybody, or is it just my shop? Is it normal? This is normally our busy season, but we are very slow. What can we do to get more people in? And we didn't have a normal tax season, and this is normally our busy season, but it never started. So, we've been hearing this a lot. It's from people in shops all over the country. Believe me, if you're having this issue, it is not just you. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. You know, we all saw that boom after COVID happened where everybody was slammed, and then it has slowly dissipated over the last year and a half or so. Um, and a lot of this can be contributed to how many shops that have popped up. That's the biggest thing that we have seen is over the last 2 years or so, and I'm sure you've seen it, how many new shops have popped up. It's kind of, I guess, dissipated the amount of people going to single shops. So that's one of the biggest things we've seen. So it's not just you, it's been slow everywhere. Normally, nobody had a normal tax season. Nobody has had or not a lot of people have had a very good start to their busy season or any busy season at all. And again, there's just a lot more shops that have popped up. People are tending to be a little more careful with their money as well. But if you go into Google and look at the trends for people looking for tattoo shops, there isn't a big difference between this year and last year, or last year and 2019 before COVID happened. So there's still definitely people going out there getting tattooed. That volume hasn't dropped off that much. It's just, where are they going? And especially with all these new shops coming in with these younger owners that know about, are great with social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. They know how to market. That's what they've grown up on. It's been a lot easier for them to kind of get a bigger piece of a pie than you would think a new shop would get. And what we've also seen is shops that have been investing in marketing and have it dialed in. Let's say they started a year ago, a couple years ago, and they've really dialed it in. Those guys aren't really having slow seasons. That's one of the best things about marketing is when you get it dialed in, it's consistent. You know how much it's going to cost for somebody to request a consultation. You know how much it's going to cost to get somebody in your chair, and you know the average, what they're going to spend, how many times they're going to come back, the lifetime value. So that's one of the biggest things about marketing. When it gets slow, shops that don't have it dialed in are just kind of dabbling in marketing, boosting posts, maybe some Facebook ads, maybe a little bit of Google ads. They tend to stop spending money because they get into this like panic mode, like, oh God, I have to save all this money. And what that does for the companies that are still marketing and have it dialed in is it just makes it easier for them because there's less competition out there. Like if you know anything about Google, how Google ads work is it's a bidding war essentially. You say how much you'll pay for a click if somebody is searching for, let's say, tattoo shops near me, which is one of the most profitable and relevant keywords for Google ads. Well, if 10 of these smaller shops in your area have stopped spending any kind of money on it, and you're spending, and you're still putting money into it, you have to spend much less to get the same result as you did because all these other people are going into panic mode. So one of the biggest mistakes, like I said, that we are seeing is these smaller shops that don't have it dialed in completely stop spending money on marketing, and then it gets even slower, and then there's more of a panic mode, and then they actually can't afford to market, and it's just this kind of downward spiral. So if you're not doing marketing, if you are slow, it's something we always recommend. Because again, I mean, even when shops were busy, these shops that have invested in marketing, even when they were busy, they were still spending money on it just for times like now when it's slow for everybody else. So to answer that question, slow for everybody. If you're not investing in marketing, start as long as you still have the budget for it. It's what is going to take you through those slow times, even during the winter. Let's say you're in Washington State, where I actually live, and it gets cold and people don't do as much stuff. It's dark early. Or let's say you're in Florida, where not as many people get tattooed in the middle of the summer because it's hard to heal a tattoo in Florida in the middle of the summer. If those are your slow seasons, you will have less of those and they'll have less of an impact on your business if you have that consistency in dialed in marketing. If you have any questions about that, just hit us up. Another one that we see a lot, or question we get a lot, is not sure where to start in marketing for my shop. So we did a video on this a few weeks ago. It's a question we hear all the time, just not sure where to get started. And there's a few different things you can do. So if you're just doing this for yourself, let's say you're a single artist studio or you work in another person's shop and you're just trying to get yourself a few more clients, the biggest thing is to just pick a platform and get started. There's pros and cons to every single one. We tend to do Google Ads, and I'll get into that in a little bit because that's our best. It gives the best return on investment. It's also the hardest to learn. It requires the most assets. You have to build landing pages. Something like TikTok or Instagram, Facebook. If you're just doing this for yourself, that's a good place to get started. If you don't have a big budget, that is a good place to get started. And I mean, boosted posts are going to be the easiest way to get into this. But if you're looking to get people in your seats today, they have some of the lowest conversion rates on them. So if you're going to run ads on social media, actually go into the ad manager, learn it at least as much as you can, and run ads that way versus boosting posts. Boosting posts are great for getting your name out there, building a clientele or a following within driving distance to your shop. They're not great for getting people into your chair within the next week or so. And all this stuff you can learn on YouTube. You can get 80% of the way there on YouTube, which is going to be good enough for most people. The reason shops work with companies like ours or other marketing companies is because we know that other 20%, and that's when you really get it dialed in. But 80% is still pretty darn good. 80%, you're going to get some pretty good results out of it. There's a lot of information on YouTube that's completely free. It's just taking the time to learn it. And I mean, in less than 10 hours, you can get 80% of the way there. Just make sure you're checking the videos are up to date because of how quickly the algorithms change in Facebook and Google and everywhere. But most of the information is out there. That's the best place to start. Now, if you are going to hire someone, let's say you're a bigger shop, you have 3 or more artists, you haven't done a lot of marketing before, you do want to get into it, you're not sure where to start. What you got to weigh is it worth your time to learn this yourself, or do you have the budget to hire a company or a person to do it? Typically, if you have at least 3 artists, it's going to be a better, the best thing to do is to hire somebody else, because you don't want to spend the time learning it while you're running a shop, while you're tattooing, while you're doing all the things a shop owner has to do, and then getting good at marketing on the side. Typically, if you're at that size, you have the budget to hire somebody. If you are going to hire somebody, here are the biggest things. Make sure they know the tattoo industry. That's you think that would be common sense, but a lot of these companies have really good salesmen that will promise you the world, and then you get nothing out of it. Make sure they've worked with tattoo companies before. Make sure they can show you examples of campaigns they've run, the results, testimonials. Like, do your due diligence. That is, like, I can tell you, I can sell, I could get you 1 million clients in the next 2 months. It's not true, but you listen to some of these sales guys for these big marketing companies and these sales guys are commission based. So they don't care what happens after you actually sign. They've got their money. They don't care what happens. So make sure that the company that you're talking to, and talk to multiple. I mean, even tell that to people that schedule consultations with us. If you haven't talked to any other companies, you haven't worked with any other companies, go talk to other companies, see what they can offer you. Just make sure they can show you that they can back up what they're saying. Show examples, get testimonials, see results. So if you aren't doing any marketing for your company, you want to get started, those are the places I suggest. How do I start to brand myself and get my ideal clients? All right, so starting to brand yourself is where we do like to start using social media, because it is really good to get your name out there, to get the most people or eyeballs on your work, on yourself versus anything else. Like we live in this crazy time. Up until 15 years ago, if you wanted to have people see your studio, your work, you put it on a billboard, you put it on the side of a bus, you put it in the yellow pages. And even then, there was no targeting an audience, just whoever saw it saw it. Nowadays, it's mind-boggling how easy this stuff is. I mean, as long as you know the audience you are trying to reach and you put that in when you're building your ads, I mean, you can get 15,000 eyeballs on your ad, on your work within 10 miles of your studio for not very much money, for less than $100. So it's really crazy how easy it is. A lot of people think that it's oversaturated, but it's really not. If you do go work, if you're wanting to build your personal brand or your shop's brand, use social media. Just make sure you're targeting within driving distance to your studio. Make sure you're targeting your ideal client. Like, I mean, you probably don't want 75-year-old men and women seeing your ads. There's probably not a lot that come into your shop. Maybe you are. Maybe you're in Florida. I don't know. But sit down, figure out who your ideal client is. Make sure you've put that targeting into the ad you're building. And then again, make sure it's within driving distance of your shop. It's super cheap to build a brand. It's just done incorrectly about 95% of the time we see it. And again, you can learn most of this stuff on YouTube. So what we do is we use what's called the $1 a day strategy. You might have heard me talk about this before. Its inventor is a guy named Dennis Yu. He's been advertising on Facebook for so long, he actually knows Mark Zuckerberg. So he's been doing this since Facebook became a thing. So he's very good at it. But essentially the concept behind that is it is using boosted posts. You put your audience in there, and when you post something, you boost it for $1 a day for 7 days. And that is the simplest way to do it. If you're going to do something more long-term, make sure you go into the ads manager and use that. But if you're just looking for a little bit of recognition, and a very simple way to do it, the $1 a day strategy. The only thing is, since it is using boosted posts, if you don't continuously do it, like if you run a post for 7 days, it's not going to do anything at $1 a day. You have to be consistent with it. Versus an ad you can put there and it will run forever. So if you're going to do this strategy, you have to continuously do it. And I know $1 a day, when you compound how many posts you're doing in a week, might be a little much. Just do a couple posts a week, 2-3 posts a week, $7. I mean, you're less than $100 a month. It's a really good way to build that audience locally. Another thing to make sure is when you are setting up your ad, make sure you're setting it up so when people are clicking on it, it's taking them to your Instagram page to follow it. Like I said, if these are not good for getting people in your chairs right now. So if you do something like, a lot of people think, hey, I'll have them send me a message, that'll be great. 98% of those people are going to be tire kickers. They're going to ask for a price, or if they do want a tattoo, it's going to be something small. Anybody out there that's run ads like this, know you get a lot of questions about, hey, what's your shop minimum? It's just not a great thing to do. And if you can hear my dog snoring, I apologize. I have a Cane Corso. She loves to be in here with me, and she's very loud and smelly. Great dog. Along the lines of building that brand, make sure when you're posting pictures, when you're posting videos, at least occasionally, your face is included in those. I can't tell you how many times we'll look at somebody's social media and you have no clue what the person looks like. You have no clue who they are. Like, if somebody loves your work, how are they going to walk into a shop and be like, hey, that's the person? People want to know what you look like. They want to put a face to it. You might even have your name up there. Hopefully you have at least your first real name in your Instagram. So people, if you're not posting your pictures of your face, people can at least call and ask for you. But this is something that I had a conversation with Matt Vaught about a couple months ago. He has, he's a well-known tattoo artist. He has people come up to him at conventions. He has no clue who they are, even though he's talked to them for months, because of the fact there's no pictures of their face on their social media. They'll come and introduce themselves like, oh, you're that guy. No clue, because I don't know what you look like. So make sure you're posting pictures of your face, pictures of you tattooing. If you're a person that's at least mediocre in front of the camera, talk to, just do a few talking heads, maybe about your process. It doesn't have to be anything technical. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. People want these perfect videos. It just doesn't happen. And people are going to judge your videos a lot less than you think, unless you're up to this extremely high level, and then it doesn't matter. People are going to talk shit no matter what. So that is the easiest and cheapest way to start branding yourself locally. Also, make sure when you have somebody come in and get tattooed and they fill out that consultation request, that person is giving you all their information. You have their email address, you have their phone number. Make sure you're saving that. Make sure there's plenty of automated softwares that don't cost a lot of money. How cool is it for that client when it's their birthday, that they get an automated text from you saying, hey, happy birthday, here's 10% off or something like that. There's a million different things you can do. A lot of the time we'll handwrite and mail cards to people just because nobody does it anymore. It's such a lost art, but it's so simple to do. There's this story, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's the most successful used car salesman in history. And when asked what his secret was, is that's what he did. He wrote out handwritten cards for birthdays, for holidays, for stuff like that. And he sent them to people that had come in before. And not only is it a super nice gesture, but people are going to think you're awesome. They're going to want to come back to you. They're going to tell your friends about you. And it's super affordable and it's super easy to do. It's a little bit of your time versus, compounding over several years. You're going to make a lot of money off that. And again, it keeps you top of mind. As far as getting your ideal client, two different ways to do this. One is going to be the longer route, but it's the way it's the route most people take, most artists take. And it's building up your name big enough till you can start turning down work. Now, obviously, that is a process that takes years and years and years. And it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. When you get to that level, that is great. Another way to do that, though, to at least start getting the kind of work you want, is if you're only posting the stuff you want to do, like niche down. Like if you're a neo-trad artist, just post neo-trad. If you're an anime artist or a trash poke artist, just post that on your page. Don't post all these different kinds of styles. Like, get well known for one, and also post the size of pieces that you want. Like if you don't want little letters or little bullshit flash tattoos, shit like that, don't put it on your Instagram account. Only put on those sleeves, put on those full back pieces, put on the bigger stuff that you actually want to do. Because if somebody goes to your Instagram, they just want a stupid little banger and that you're probably not going to want to do anyway for the shop minimum, and then they're never going to come back. Or if they do, it's going to be for the same thing. Don't post those. Simple as that. All right. What platform should I be using for marketing? So we use Google. Google is king at this moment right now, and at least for the foreseeable future. That could always change with changing the algorithm or something like that. But for now, Google is king. Google is also the hardest to learn, and it needs the biggest budget. So if you have a Google account, or if you're getting ready to set up a Google account, Google automatically puts you into what's called smart mode. So if you have a Google account right now, if you go into that account and you click settings, you'll see at the bottom where it says expert mode. And that's where you can really dial your stuff in. Smart mode is essentially a setup wizard for Google. It eliminates like 90% of the options. It's essentially a done for you template. It does not work very well. You can't set up the kind of conversions you want. The analytics are always messed up. It doesn't work well if you want to be serious about using Google Ads and getting an immediate return on it. So it has the biggest learning curve. It's not easy to learn. You need to know the keywords. You need to know a lot of stuff. And again, with that, you can get 80% of the way watching YouTube videos. It's still going to be 3 to 4 times longer than using social media or learning social media ads, just because there's so much more that needs to be done with it. And the testing that needs to be done with it, because you're using keywords versus just sending on Google versus just sending it to people, a target demographic in social media. It's again, a lot more complicated, but it works so much better. Also, if you don't have an ad spend budget of at least $500 a month, it's really, really hard to get traction on Google. You need $13 to $15 a day at least on Google to start seeing what you want. I'd say 13 to 15. It's like 15 to 18 or something. But under that, it can take a couple months to get going. 500 is kind of the bare minimum. So if you're under that, social media is going to be the way to go. There's better ways to do it, and we've talked about that in the past. Don't set up messages. Don't have people message you. It's garbage. Send people to a landing page. If you don't have a landing page, have them fill out a form right there on Facebook, and make sure you ask a bunch of questions, and you'll weed out a lot of the tire kickers. Social. So if you're looking for a direct return, like if you want people in your seats with it or in your chairs within the next couple week, those are the ways to go. If you're looking to build an audience, like we just talked about, the long-term play, but social's amazing for that. It's harder to get paying clients in the door immediately, but if you stick with that $1 a day strategy, or we call it an omnipresent strategy, where people see you everywhere, over time that's going to compound, and it's by far the best. It's better than any paid ads to cold traffic, because people already know you, they like you, they trust you, they like your work. So when they are going to get tattooed, they're going to come to you. They're just probably not going to be in the market for a tattoo the first 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 30 times they see you. So it's definitely the long game, but you should be doing it. Like I said, if you don't have enough of a budget, if you don't have over $500, use social media. With that boosted post $1 a day strategy, you can get away with as little as $100 a month. If you're going to actually do the paid ads, you probably want at least $200-$300 a month. $10 a day is $7 to $10 a day is the minimum. I would even say $10 a day is the minimum, because the same thing, there's just not going to be a lot of traction. It's going to be hard for Facebook to learn. It's just going to take a lot of time. Also with social media ads, well, with any ads, there's got to be follow-up. With social media ads, you're going to have to try to contact that person a bunch more times than you are if they come off Google, because Google, they're actively looking. Social media, they can be more tire kickers. So if you don't have an automation set up, or if you yourself aren't able to call, text, email these people at least 7 times over the first 2 weeks, you're not going to have a lot of luck with it. I know that sounds super weird and counterintuitive, like you'd just be annoying if you follow up with somebody that much. I mean, the numbers have shown, there have been so many studies done on this in all different types of industries, but the follow-up is where the money is made. Even with Google, it's not as bad because it's somebody searching for you. But if you do not have a good follow-up system, if you don't have the time to do it, you don't want to do it, you think it's going to be annoying, you're going to waste money. All right, last question for this one. I was trying to keep this under 15 minutes. I think I'm already at 25. How much should someone spend on marketing? All right. So it depends if it's a single person or if it's a shop. If you're and again, this varies. We work with single artists that spend $1,000 a month on marketing. We work with shops that will only spend $500 a month on marketing. So it really depends where you're at. I know I've kind of gone over this, the price points. Anything under $500 a month should be social media. Anything over $500 a month should be Google. If you have a bigger budget, 1,000 plus, you should be doing both. Another big mistake, putting all your eggs in one basket. If anybody there knows about when Apple pushed out iOS 14, I believe it was 2 years ago now. So essentially iOS 14 made it so Facebook could not track someone on an iPhone or an Apple device once they left Facebook's platform, which made it extremely hard for people that were marketing on there to, so what's a good way to put this? So essentially when somebody leaves Facebook and goes to your landing page or wherever you're sending them, that sends information back to Facebook saying that they did that, saying if they filled out a form, saying if they just went to the page and then left. And Facebook can use that information to start to target the correct people that are actively looking for whatever you're selling or the service you're trying to promote. So when Apple shut that down, it had a huge effect on people running Facebook ads, especially people doing e-com stuff, people doing services stuff for 4 to 5 months. And people that had to put all their eggs in that basket of Facebook and Instagram had a real bad time. Since then, there have been workarounds, like we use a manual API, which I probably makes no sense to anybody. But we essentially manually send back that information instead of letting Facebook do it automatically. And that's how you circumvent that. But people that were just running Facebook ads, I mean, it was pretty bad. I mean, there was an estimate, I think it was $10 billion lost in revenue in like 6 months just from that. But if you were running Facebook and Google ads, obviously it wasn't that big of a deal. So spreading out your money, if you have the budget, is always a good idea. Do Meta, do TikTok, do Google ads. And if you have a bigger budget, start thinking about hiring a company that knows what they're doing to help you. You know, if you can either have to spend time or you can spend money. If you're a bigger shop, you'd probably rather spend the money than spend the time to learn all these different platforms. And no matter what, man, I mean, like I said, you can get 80% of the way there, but you're never going to beat somebody or do better than somebody that does this as a full-time job every day. Kind of like someone who is dabbling in tattooing. You know, if they tattoo once or twice a week, they're never going to be as good as the guy that's tattooing 2 sessions, 6 days a week. The golden rule for how much you should spend, and this is the textbook response called the golden rule of advertising. It is 8 to 11% of the revenue you want to be at. So let's say you want to make $100,000 over the next year, or you want to add an additional $100,000. You should spend $10,000 more dollars, well, $8 to $11,000 more dollars in marketing over the next year to hit that goal. That's the golden rule. 8 to 11% of your goal revenue. And that's not profit, that's just revenue. We talked about the budget for Google, TikTok, and hiring somebody. All right, last thing I want to go over real quick. I know I mentioned this earlier, but we keep getting questions about this. If you are going to work with a marketing company, make sure they know the tattoo industry. Make sure they can show you examples of the work that they've done. Make sure you get references. Make sure you see results. A lot of people don't know the industry. Like these companies will be great in like home services, like plumbing, HVAC, stuff like that. And they think, hey, it's tattoos. It can't be that hard. But when they come in and then they don't know the different type of tattoos, they don't know the lingo, they don't know what they're trying to sell. It just can make your company or your shop look stupid when the ads are, very stereotypical ads not done by somebody that knows the industry. So just really make sure you do your due diligence. One of the hardest things that we have to fight with when we're meeting with a shop that's had a bad experience is gaining their trust, because they've been burdened by a company that had no clue what they were doing and had no business working with a tattoo shop. They were just trying to make a quick buck, or a salesman just trying to make a quick commission. Make sure you do your due diligence. If you are looking to work with somebody else and you have questions, let us know. We're not going to try to talk you into working with us. We just don't want to see you get burned, because again, that ruins it for everybody, including us. Hopefully this podcast was helpful. I know it wasn't our traditional one, but if you like these, let me know. We can answer more questions like this. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you next week.